And if you could just introduce yourself.
I play keyboards in Alice.
My name is Anna Maria, and I am the founder and vocalist in the band Vajra.
What was the initial start?
So we all have pretty storied histories.
I was just bored during COVID. Did a little demo, put it out, and it was pretty well received by the community. And
always had a thing for horror punk and stuff.
Something that started with me and a laptop during quarantine, and just like, oh yeah, all those times I said, if only I didn't have to work my job all the time, and now like I could have time to do that. Well, now this is that.
All right. And if you all wouldn't mind introducing yourself for the fine people at home, I'd really appreciate that.
Hello, my name is Carl Garcia, and I play keyboards in Alice, and I also do the cinematography for a good amount of the music videos as well.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a drummer and also program lights.
Hello. I'm Sasha, and I am a backup singer, and I do a lot of the editing for the music videos.
Hey, I'm Gordon. I play bass, and I do bass synth, and I sing some vocals.
Hi, I'm Tosh, and I sing and also play keyboards.
And my name's Scott, and I play guitar and synthesizer.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on this show, and I'm very excited to get to talk to you. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about is, what is the history of your band? For those people that are just like going to find you from here, what should they know? How did the band start, and how did it get to where it is?
Well, me, Scott, and Gordon were in a band called Mankind is Obsolete, which is kind of an industrial punk band. And we were on tour for about a year. And we came back with just tons of ideas. Then we started jamming them out. And they didn't quite fit into a singular style. And we thought, well, it feels a little progressive, a little surreal. Where should we go with this? And Gordon thought of the name Alice as the idea of going down the rabbit hole through the looking glass and taking people on a journey. We started compiling like a bunch of music. We also had toured with Android Lust. Steve was playing drums for Android Lust, and we became instant kindred spirits. And so Steve joined our little caravan, and we were playing the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball where we met Sasha. And so I asked her if she would be interested in singing harmonies. I come from a choir background, and I've always loved like multi-layered choral kind of vocals. And Carl and I went to theater school together. So in terms of the musical aspect of Alice, it's been the six of us. And we also inhabit a beautiful community of artists, visual artists, filmmakers, and dancers. So we've been collaborating with them in our little Alice family as we've been progressing.
I like that you decided, hey, let's try something different. Let's like move into this new space. And because of that, it felt like a good time to get that like new identity. And I think it really works. I like the idea of like you're saying, going down the rabbit hole and seeing like what you can find there. It's kind of cool. So with that in mind, like obviously you have a diverse sound. So where does that come from? What influences you? What artists did you guys, look up to or pull inspiration from? Or, what artist wrote that one song that said, man, I want to make music like that?
I mean, the interesting thing about us is I think we derive from a lot of different sources. Like we all listen to like different types of music. I mean, we all come from sort of a heavy industrial kind of metal background, I would say, or a lot of us have like grown up listening to that kind of stuff. And then kind of an 80s kind of a vibe too. We all love like 80s kind of like synth pop, a lot of Depeche Mode. We all just went and saw Duran Duran play. So I feel like we get some of our background from that, but then we all listen to all different types of stuff. I mean, we can go around the horn, but I love like EDM and dance and pop. So I have that sort of pop ear, which some of us do, some of us like other stuff.
Well, the crazy thing is, it's a hard thing to answer. You say, what was that one song? And I can remember like hearing a tune in the radio that was like a pop rock tune, and it was like, oh, I have to drop out of college and go out to LA. because I can't keep doing this jazz thing. I got to get back. And then I move out to LA and start playing more jazz. And so I need to do more punk rock. And it's just like one feeds into the other. But what's crazy is now, even though, I'm listening to like dubstep and stuff, sometimes I like listening to it's the extreme things that inspire. And then we all collectively just bring each of our elements in. So it's kind of like we can't make Alice without each of us, because we all have our voice and our voices work together in this magical way.
I've always loved music and art that takes you on a journey. So I really love bands like Pink Floyd and Tool. Their live shows are really exemplify that, where they really take you and you go on this journey of both, musically and also visually. And then the energy of the actual performance is just really incredible. So I think that's definitely been a big influence for Alice.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to some of the bands that really influenced me growing up, and the music that like really got me really interested in like wanting to create music was just like music that's like very layered and like super spacious, like Tosh mentioned Pink Floyd, Massive Attack, even like Smashing Pumpkins, like just the layers of guitars, like if you listen to their early records, it's like insane amount of like fuzzed out guitars, and also like part of that was like the music production as well. So like that's just really inspiring to me, and I feel like motivates me and it's inspired and influenced me to want to create music.
What kind of non musical things would you say influence you, as far as like aesthetically, as far as like what gets into you when you're thinking about writing music, whether it's a visual medium or a film or whatever? What really pulls at you?
I know that for me, and I feel like everything is inspiring. I know that sounds really weird. I'll kind of like everything, like flowers in the backyard, puddles after the rain. Like there's certain things that you look at, or I look at, or I feel like anyone can look at, and you're like, holy cannoli, that's so beautiful. And that can inspire a feeling. And then that feeling can be translated visually or musically or sonically. And so I feel like we kind of pull from the everything. I know visually, for me personally, I love horror movies and psychological like thrillers, like the real slow burn, but just it's the grittiness of it, it's the texture of the film as much as it is the pacing and the movement and the dialogue and the silence, and I feel like that really like influences me visually and consequently us visually. And so and then Alfred Hitchcock, of course, is just the master of all things, and again it's the silence and the stillness that leads to the movement.
For me, I really I do love getting inspired by movies. I personally enjoy very very heavy, I guess, for lack of a better term, epic movies, but I don't know if I would necessarily consider them to be that. One of my favorite movies of all time is There Will Be Blood from Paul Thomas Anderson. And that is one movie that I still can't get over, in my opinion, the perfection of, between the performances, the cinematography, the writing, the adaptation, everything about it. And also a lot of visual things. I get inspired by Charlie Kaufman movies, because so many of his visuals are so amazing and practical that it makes me really not want to rely so heavily on trying to get something in the edit, trying to get something in the CGI. I want to see how we can make this thing work with a practical effect. Like we have a practical effect in the new music video that we just shot. It's a very simple thing. It's a simple head turn of an inanimate object, but we did it in real time. And because we did it in real time, I feel like it just has this really cool layer to it. And it's a very simple thing. And even so, being like finding places to be inspired, there was a moment in rehearsal, like a couple of days ago, where we were taking a break and talking about things. And I was holding a cup of coffee and I was sitting on the ground. And Steve's, the studio that we rehearse in has these really great lights that shine down on us. and the light was bouncing out of my coffee cup and reflecting on the bottom of my keyboard. And I was staring at it, and it was like this amazing ripple effect. And I was like, man, I need to shoot this, but I don't want to move. Then I saw Steve across the way. He was looking at me, like holding his coffee cup up towards me as well. I'm like, oh, crying out loud, I probably look really weird right now. And it was, but it's really fun to do the music and then be inspired and see things, and then it all connects into itself.
How does the writing process work? I mean, you guys are, relatively speaking, a large band. I mean, not for, every genre of music. And I know in like, a while ago, jazz musicians had much larger bands, but for like rock oriented, pop oriented, kind of music, more modern music, it's getting smaller and smaller. So what I'm thinking is you guys obviously have a good, internal communication and relationship going on. Having, even 3 or 4 people, that can get kind of hectic, balancing everything and, all of that. So how does the writing process for you guys work? Does it start with like one person brings an idea, or do you guys just kind of all jam together and kind of coordinate things, or how does that work?
Yes and yes. Yeah. Scott oftentimes has a cool little, like a riff or a some kind of synth thing, a structure, a skeleton. Oftentimes it starts like summon the skeleton, from wherever it comes, and then yeah, we all hang out in a seance, and then we kind of just bring our thing, and the flesh comes to the song, and it can change, and we just get creative with it, and it kind of takes on a life of its own, and then it gets into the recording process and then goes a whole nother place. So
yeah, I think it depends on the song. We love having creative retreats, because I feel like when we're really singular and we're really focused on the creation, like our last album that we wrote together, we just kind of knocked out a double album, and we're working on the second half in terms of the production of it. And so it's really interesting when you're really diving in and everybody brings, their little picnic basket, and they're like, oh, I brought cheese, and oh, I brought strawberries. And we all get to just kind of, in a sense, we do jam ideas. So we'll focus on one particular song, and then a lot of ideas will come out of it. So the music videos, I think, as well, have been really fleshed out on this particular album that we're working on. There was just like a slew of ideas that came in addition to the songs that we were creating. But we also really like to delve into the layers. So we are thinking production on top of the actual songs, because everybody in the band is their own producer. So everyone's like, oh, it'd be really cool if we tried this layer or this layers.
And then the finished usually involves playing live. A lot of times, once we write it, we build it, we sometimes record it, and then we go out and tour with it, and then that's when it really takes its direction and get this finished sort of product. Our single that we're just about to release will be out, but I felt like it really morphed because we got to play it together as a group, and then we went back and finished the actual recording, and it came out so much cooler.
It's an amazing process, and like the whole retreat thing that we've been doing has been, I feel like, really transformative. We really started doing that in 2020, and for a long time, like, we've collaborated, and like we were like trying to figure out the best way to work, and like we started doing like this creative retreat process, and I feel like that's when like real magic started happening, just getting everyone in the same room. There was this moment in 2020, it was like getting late, and we already like wrote 3 or 4 different ideas during the day, and it was just getting really quiet. And then all of a sudden, like, there was just like the song Part of Me was recorded live, basically one take, so if you listen to the album, you'll hear actually like literally like there's no real editing that we did or anything like that, but it was just the vibe and the feeling we all had together, and like that is I feel like emblematic of like the whole entire experience for us. Whenever we do this now, it's just like we're all just there together for like 12 hours a day, and hanging out, for multiple days.
So what I've got to know is each individually, if that's okay, of your guys' material, what is your particular favorite song and why?
I'm actually pulling up a list of our songs right now because I have to look down them. So
that's like the hardest question.
It's so hard. I feel like we have this kind of, it's kind of like it's a game we play, but it's not really a game. It's just a thing where whatever song we happen to be playing at that moment is our favorite song. And so when we're in rehearsal or when we're on the road, it's like whatever we're doing, we're like, oh, this is my favorite song. And then the next one starts, we're like, wait, no, this is my favorite song. And it's true every time. And that's the thing about it that's so fun, is that like the energy that goes into each one is so honest and vulnerable, and that they are kind of like all our favorite songs. but with that, I'll think about which one for the actual.
You're right. I actually did say it last night. I said it. It was Vectors off of our. It's a song we never get to play. It's called "Time Moves Slowly," but the working title was called Vectors. So every time we played it, we were like, "Which song are we playing?" Oh yeah, Vectors. Now I remember. That is still my favorite.
It's a good point that Sasha makes too, though. It's like last night we had this epic rehearsal. You know, we're like getting ready for touring, doing a live stream, and you know, there was multiple moments where I feel like we were all like in sync with each other in a way that was just like, this is my favorite moment of existence right now, like just playing music with everyone. And it happened multiple times. So I don't know, like, you know, it's really hard to say, but if I have to name like an actual like real favorite, our song Love Is Forever is just like really special to me, just because of the emotions attached to the writing of it and everything. So like when I play that, like I feel like I really just like really get into it.
I guess if I had to choose, I think my favorite song is our new one. It's See Me. I think the production on it is awesome. I'm so excited to release it. But if I'm playing drums live, my favorite is our cover of A Land of Confusion by Genesis. That one is just so fun to play.
As Sasha was saying, actually, it's one of my favorite questions I ask the band every night is, what was your favorite song of the set? And it does change like every night, you know, because there's certain times that we're feeling especially connected to the audience, to each other. And it's just like, it's like magic. I'm sure you can relate, where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I feel the magic in this one. You know, for me, off the cuff, this is from last night's rehearsal. I would say like Breathe was definitely a favorite. I love multiple percussion. I've always loved that feeling and that sound. And we're all playing like percussion during the song. And it's a very layered song vocally and with percussion and everything, and the rhythm of the song. We were influenced by a trip to Algeria. Our other band, Mankind is Obsolete, had done an amazing we had an amazing experience. The US State Department sent us there as cultural envoys. And so we spent a couple weeks in 3 different cities teaching workshops and playing with other musicians. And there was this incredible rhythm, the Gnawi rhythm that we were hearing in a lot of the music, and that really inspired us. So that really influenced that particular song. So I think I always feel like this very primal inspiration when we get to play that.
Yeah, this is definitely the question that changes every time we play together, which is really great. But last night I felt very particularly connected to Silent Night, which I thought it happens to me a lot, where I will zone out and just start daydreaming in the middle of doing a task. During the middle of that song, I did zone out, and I was daydreaming about the song. And I was imagining it, just sat like, it sounded so epic in my headphones and everything. And I was just immediately imagining that we were playing this huge stage and there was a giant orchestra, and like the horn section was just hitting those really heavy low notes, and the strings were all just, you know, flowing with each other. And then it was like us on stage with a conductor down there, you know, waving his arms. And then when the song ended, I came back to reality and I was like, oh, that was fun. We should do that. We should make that a reality. I'd be okay with that. So last night, I would say that's going to be my answer, is Silent Night.
Let's talk a little bit about lyrics. What is the process like for writing lyrics for your guys' music? How does that start? Is there like just one sole writer, or do you guys like take turns, you know, writing lyrics? Or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, again, it really depends on the song. You know, in the early incarnation of Alice, when it was just me, Scott, and Gordon, me and Gordon often were bouncing ideas in MKIO. I've always loved the call and answer, like in electrical, which is a great example. Originally, we were on tour, and I heard the melody, I heard the initial lyrics, and it was just stuck in my head. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I have my voice notes out. I'm like, can't lose this idea. And we came back from tour, and we just started jamming on it. And Gordon heard this other line that bounced off of what I had originally created. And it's amazing how there is this synergy that happens with the lyric writing. I myself have found that you might set the intention of like, okay, the song is about milk, right? But then as you progress, the song becomes about something entirely different. It's like, oh no, it was about cheese all along. But it's interesting how when you bring a song to life and it comes alive collaboratively, it can really evolve in terms of the lyric writing and the meaning of it. So yeah, if there's any particular songs, I can really delve into how those got written. But I myself keep extensive poetry books and lyric journals. I have like stacks and stacks of them. So I'll jot down ideas throughout the day, because they often come to me in the form of little whispers at very inconvenient times, like when I'm driving or in the shower. I'll hear little lyric ideas, and so I tend to like to jot them down and then develop them. And sometimes they fit into music, and sometimes they don't. And then it's just a matter. And then sometimes it's like Dead Lucky was an example when we were playing around with that. Like, we had this concept. It was a comic book. So there was an author that was asking us to write her theme song. And so we, read the story. We really delved into the character, and, we collectively sat down and we were like, okay, what is this song about? What is the theme about? Like, what is the vibe we want to bring? And so that really informed the lyrics. So, each song has its own inspiration in terms of like how we come to those lyrics. So yeah, it can be very, very cathartic. So it can come from a very personal place. And then sometimes we draw from outside inspiration, like from the comic book, for instance. So
when I'm personally writing lyrics, I've started a habit. I write a song every night, even if it's absolute garbage and I'm never going to share it with anyone. I'm just putting stuff on paper, because either you're going to get an idea or you're going to like be thinking about that, what you wrote later, and you're going to be able to pull from that and make something new. And it just kind of spirals out of control until you get something truly beautiful. So when you were talking about, keeping a poetry journal, I love that. That's so cool. And I'm going to steal that habit, by the way. I'm going to keep that. As far as like specific songs, I wanted to say, like, I looked at your guys' Bandcamp. I've been, following you guys for a little while. But I went specifically to the Bandcamp page because I like to, and I'll get back to this at the end of the show. I like to promote people's Bandcamps because sometimes people will sell physical media, or they'll sell digital copies of it, and people can have that and take it with them wherever they go. We can always stream and things like that. But I found that bands get paid for what they're doing. They're getting paid for the art they're creating. So that's why I like to go there, is because you guys, if you want good artists to make good music, you need to pay them. They can't do this for free. You have to support them. All right. So with that said, when I went to you guys' Bandcamp page, I went through, and the three that like, they were all beautiful, but the three that like really for different reasons kind of stuck out to me were, one, yes, the Dead Lucky theme song. But also Electrical and Swamp Thing. I really liked Swamp Thing because of, you guys described it earlier as there were songs that are kind of like ethereal and kind of flow. Fantastic job on that. So with that one, like with that specific song, Swamp Thing, what kind of like led to all of that coming together?
Well, Swamp Thing is actually a cover of a Chameleon song. So we have two different versions. We have like sort of like a typical straight ahead cover. And then we have a version that's sort of like a remix of the cover. Like we recorded and did like a straight ahead version. And then we're like, let's create like an electronic, ethereal sort of dance sort of approach, like with a lot of electronic vibe and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you were listening to the Dream Mix or not, but either way, remember exactly what led us to doing it. I think actually it might have been, a fan of ours might have requested it like a long time ago, and they mentioned it to us that they thought it would be like a really good match, and we checked the song out. We're like, this is awesome, and we all love the song. So, and that's, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Chameleons or not, but I feel like it's an amazing compliment when someone listens to a song and like whether or not it's a cover, like it affects them in a specific way, or it touches them, or makes them feel something.
Lyrically, when we were working on that one, it when you listen to the original, you'll probably notice there are some substantial differences. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember. I feel like we just took a hacksaw to that thing and really, really, as is true of a certain type of, some goth music, it's very vocally through composed, and oftentimes it's not as much like we're used to, where everything is so on the beat and time corrected and whatnot. So Tosh and I really sat down and spent some time really twisting it and weaving it in really creative ways. And it was really fun because we really went, like Tosh was saying earlier, the whole multi-voice thing. We really leaned hard into that, but also tried to pull out hooks and some melodies in the original words that weren't necessarily there.
Obviously, like you were saying, that's a cover. So are there any bands, that you guys like that you would want to cover in the future?
I feel like there's like about 100 different songs we want to cover. And we're working on like a sort of a cover album as we're like working on our original material. So yes, the answer is yes. There's many songs, and we all have a lot. We have a big list, a running list. So
okay,
we have some secrets. We have some secrets in our sleeves and under our hats. I'll say a Bowie. There's at least a Bowie.
Here's a question that I should have asked at the beginning of the interview, and it kind of just slipped my mind. You guys have such a diverse sound, and I know that like in the more alternative music, there is a wide range of ways to describe the exact kind of music that people make. But like, how do you all describe yourself? What do you think the music that you've created is? I know, and again, I know it's broad and wide ranging, and that there's lots of different sounds that you guys have. But if you were to kind of put it into an umbrella, what would you say is the genre that Alice is?
AI-driven superhuman synth pop.
I don't know.
I just throw in the AI because we always just have to throw in the newest label.
I feel like, we all have definitely, I feel like if you ask each one of us, we're going to give a different answer. I feel like we are progressive, like electronic rock, if you want to have like a broad genre terminology, and like, we're definitely like, we got a little bit of goth, we've got a little bit of industrial going on. We have some like real like modern EDM influences as well, pop as going on too. So it's like, I have no idea, but it's an important question, and something we have to figure that out.
I think there's definitely elements of classical in there as well, just because in terms of some of our inspiration and our influences, there's a lot of choral elements that are in there. So I don't know if I'd say symphonic per se, because we don't use a lot of orchestration, although we did for Silent Night. That was actually Caitlin Wolfberg strings, which was amazing. But I'd say that definitely progressive is in there, because what I love about the umbrella of the progressive world is that it kind of, to me, opens a vast door of like, you're not boxed into any particular way of like, this is the chorus and this is the verse. Like, it kind of gives you an expansive realm to explore, and for those of you who are Tolkien fans, you can be Ents and you can be long-winded and you can have like 9-minute long songs, and I love that freedom.
I heard the term used for a Hulu series the other day, genre bending. I feel like our music is genre bending.
You kind of start in one place and you just kind of flow through it and go to it, and you've got so much experimentation going on. You had mentioned earlier the like the influences from like traditional or more traditional African music and incorporating that into what you all are doing. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Like exposing people to new things, new ideas, just kind of playing with things and moving the whole space forward as far as music's concerned. And I really appreciate that. We're going to start winding down now. So I would like to know, what are some bands that you guys are either have toured with or plan on touring with that you would like to shout out? Some band that band or bands or individual singers that you feel deserve special attention, and hey, maybe someday they'll end up on this show as well.
Well, on the upcoming tour, we're playing with a band called IO at the Milestone Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're on Jim Semenick's label Distortion Productions, and we love Jim. We love his bands, and we love them. We got to play with them last time. They're amazing. So we're super excited about that show. We're playing with an Austin-based band called Haunt Me, as part of the Chicago festival that we're going to be playing at. So we're actually going to be playing the Dark Force Fest in April. And there's going to be a lot of really amazing bands over the course of 3 days. So me, Scott, and Steve play in a band called System Sin. So we're going to be doing double duty, both in System Sin and Alice. But those are just a few that come to mind. Any of y'all have some favorites that we've played with?
Nuda. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you. Nuda. Am I saying it right? Nuda was amazing. They're everything. Their sounds, their presentation, they're kind people. It was just, what an amazing band. Amazing.
I'll second that.
Yeah, we got to play with them at Mechanismus in 2022. Last year. And then again, we got to play with them back in the spring, or I'm sorry, back in the summer. Sorry, time is fluid. And just incredible, really incredible. So Nuda's definitely on the list for sure. Oh, Stabbing Westward. We got to play with Stabbing Westward at the Mechanismus Festival, and wow, what an inspiration. Chris Hall, the singer, is just such an incredible singer and vocalist, and also very kind. So kindness goes a long way in our little camp.
And, a couple tours ago, we got to play with a really great band called Obsidian, and they're still responsible for one of my favorite shirts that I still own to this day. And they're for me personally, they were just like very, very easy to get along with and talk with and just watch. And then they were very supportive of us too. And then once, like what Tosh said, the kindness goes a really long way.
We got to tour with Adrian H. and the Wounds, and they are really cool. They have a bunch of new music, I think, getting ready to be released. So very excited about that.
We're going to close out now. And with that, audience at home, remember, like, these guys, everyone involved in this project and every other band or every other artist that's come on this show, they're only able to make the art you love because they're getting the funding that's necessary. Art is something people do because they're passionate about it. Money doesn't always come into play. It's not always involved, but it does make it a lot easier for artists to create when they're not worried about, feeding themselves or where the money's going to come from for equipment or gas to be able to tour, things like that. Your support really always does matter. So please support them on Bandcamp and support them on any other social media platform that they, call out, because the views you give, the videos you watch, all of that on those different platforms, it really does add up and help get the message out for, every great band that we have had on the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's amazing. Thank you for mentioning Bandcamp, because it is definitely very vital and important for artists to, be supported in the best way possible. And that's a really great way. We also have something that we call the Mad Hatter Army. It's essentially an online fan club that has sort of spread like wildfire. You could sign up at army.ilikealice.com, and it gives you access to a private Facebook group. You'll get access to our Discord server. There's like close to 10,000 members on our Facebook group. On Discord, there's always people on there. It's like a big family, and our fans affectionately call themselves Mad Hatters, and it all just sort of plays into the whole like Alice mythos and everything like that. But I definitely highly recommend signing up there. As a band too, it's important to like bring people to places that are not totally controlled by Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. So it's like we also have our own platform, our own mailing list. So you sign up to that, like you're just part of something that's separate from all these places. So we really appreciate it.
I will say that if you are looking for us in one of those platforms, it's an AL1CE. Sometimes people have trouble finding us when they just look for Alice. So if you make sure to put the one in there, you can find us on all the usual suspects, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, Instagram. But as Scott was saying, it's wonderful to be able to interact outside of those platforms. But those platforms are also awesome because we love to interact and engage with people there as well. So.
All right. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the episode. I really appreciate it. My name is William Hamilton, and I've been the host of this episode of Heartfelt Horror here on the Heartfelt Horror Media Network channel. We really do appreciate it. And I mean, me, myself, and currently another individual who's behind the scenes, really do appreciate you guys staying to the end of these videos. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment down below, these little things really do go a long way to helping us, get our name out there and get our show out into the algorithm so other people like you can find us. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're looking for other ways to support the show, we have a Patreon. The link for that is going to be down here. You can copy that into the search bar and you'll find our page. Our Patreon is for $5 a month. For $5 a month, you're going to be able to help us buy all sorts of new equipment. You're going to help us be able to save up for different kind of developmental processes that we're going to be using to bring you new and different kinds of content besides these interviews. So if that sounds like something that interests you, please consider it. Again, it'll be $5 and the link to the Patreon is going to be down there below. So thank you so much for your time and have a nice day. Bye.